tell me your size of your church, the denomination, whether you're in a rural community, urban community church setting, small town.
Yeah, so it's we're non-denominational. We're probably running about 80, I think, right now. So it's a pretty small church, and we're in like a suburban, outside of a larger city context.
Okay. All right. So in a congregation of your size, what do you think is the challenge for a pastor's wife?
I would say, in general, I don't feel this way personally, but I think that a lot more pressure could be placed on a pastor's wife in a church of that size because it is small. So you'd feel like, oh, maybe she can fill some of the gaps of things that we need, or, you know.
So more like they would expect more of you because it's smaller?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen that in other contexts with small churches.
Okay.
I feel blessed that our church does not place a lot of expectation on me necessarily. Yeah, but I definitely think in a smaller church that is more likely.
And how long have you been there?
We just celebrated our 8th anniversary here, so we've been here 8 years, just over 8 years.
So were they celebratory?
Oh, I don't mean like that, no. Nobody really acknowledged it. I'm just saying we just...
But you all recognized it
Yeah.
in your family?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah. And how long has your pastor been? You say how long again? That you guys have been at this particular congregation?
8 years.
8 years?
Yeah, just past 8 years.
And altogether he's pastored for how long?
He has pastor in full-time ministry or just as a...
Yeah, and in the pastorate.
Yeah, as full-time ministry since 2011, so 13 years, almost 14.
Okay. You've been a pastor's wife for 13 years. How did the Lord prepare you for that?
So the joke is that I always said I will never be a pastor's wife because I'm a pastor's kid. So I grew up in that context. I saw PK. That. I'm a PK too. Yes, right. On top of it, double whammy. So I always jokingly, like not jokingly, but it's a joke now, I said I'm never going to be a pastor's wife. No way. Saw too many things, you know. And I think just as I went to seminary and I was like, just my love for the church grew. I was like, okay, I could see this. And going to seminary, I'm like, maybe this will be where I meet my husband. Who knows? And so when I met my husband and he was a youth pastor, not being paid, just volunteer at his church and going to seminary and planned to, wanted to be a pastor. I was like, okay, I can see that. And I was a lot more open to it. And I feel like the Lord prepared me for that for like several years beforehand, not with anything like drastically prepared me, but just softened my heart to it, grew my love for the church and God's people. I was just like, okay, I can see if this happens, then that'd be okay. Yeah. I wasn't so like, no, that's not happening. Right. as I was as a younger, like teenager and stuff. So. Right.
Okay. And how many children do you guys have?
We have 6 kids.
6.
Yes.
And they're all at home.
Yes.
And you homeschool, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How does being a pastor's wife? How do I ask the question? What's the nexus between being a pastor's wife and being a mom who homeschools? How do those two things interact? Or do they? I mean, you can tell me they don't. I don't know. I
mean, I don't know exactly how they interact. I mean, it's just who I am. It's me as a person, right? Okay. So, like, I can't really separate, like, that I'm a pastor's wife and that I'm a homeschooling mom. Like, they're both parts of who I am and these roles that God has given me for this season of my life. I don't know how that...
Does the church, do they support you in the homeschooling effort?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they're asking you, how's it going?
Yeah. Yeah, our church has been really, really sweet to us. When we first got here, there was a few more homeschooling families, So it wasn't like totally foreign or anything like that. We were just deciding like, okay, maybe we should give this homeschooling thing a try when we came to this church.
Right.
So it was very fresh. There was a few moms who gave me some tips and were resources for me and stuff as I got going. I mean, yeah, people ask how it's going. You know, they'll ask what the kids are doing or if there's any events that are coming up. Like we have an event coming up at our homeschool co-op in like a week, like 2 weeks. You know, I invited people from church, like, hey, if you want to come, you know,
right.
like this is our family here in town. We don't have family, extended family here. So those are the people we invite to things like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So is there any pressure that you feel because you're homeschooling that you can't do things at the church or things for your husband?
No, not really. I mean, there have been things I've had to say, like, I just can't do that.
Sure.
Because I can't be a part of it. You know, there was, like, a Bible study that a lady at church was doing for several years, and she would be so sweet and invite me every time. And I'm like, I just can't do that. Like, it's on a Friday morning. Like, if I give up my mornings, then the rest of my day is just done. Like we just won't get any school done. And this was when my kids were a little younger and stuff. And she was always like very understanding. There was no like pressure. She just always wanted me to know that I was included and invited if I wanted to come and participate, you know.
Right.
I haven't felt any pressure like that I should be involved in something at church when I couldn't. They have always kind of known, like, when we came, we kind of said right up front, like, my primary role is to be a mom and a support to my husband. And then anything else I can do at the church is just icing on the cake, you know?
So they knew that right off the bat.
Yeah, we pretty much said that right away, like, because that was a strong conviction that Jeff and I both had, that, like, my focus needs to be here. We're not going to sacrifice our children for our church.
Yeah.
So we said that right up front at our last church too. So I think that was just kind of the trend that we were continuing. And so it's just kind of been right from the get-go. Like, people just know, like, that, you know, this is primarily what I'm called to do right now.
Yeah.
Even more so with the homeschooling aspect of it, because I didn't homeschool at our last church. But so that's, everybody's been very supportive and receptive and has not, like, made me feel bad about that at all. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, okay, so there may be a pastor's wife who's watching this and she's also thinking about homeschooling her children. What, do you have any advice to give?
Just try to find a community. That would be my best advice. We got involved with a co-op, and Classical Conversations was our co-op that we got involved in.
Okay.
And it's just been a huge support to me over the years, just with more seasoned homeschooling mamas. If there's any homeschooling moms at your church, pick their brain, you know, allow them to speak into that.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I would just say you're going to need support, and just try to find that as best as you can, because you'll feel like a million times, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I doing it right? Am I failing my kids? Like, all of those things.
Right. So this sounds really healthy. You've got not only the co-op, but the church that supporting you in the homeschooling effort. Yeah. So in the First Lonely Confession, it calls the church a compact and knit city.
Yeah. What's
your role in that city?
I don't necessarily view my role as much different than any other Christian woman in the church. Right? So, like, I'm not anything special. Like, I'm just here as another believer seeking to live out the one another's and use my gifts to serve our fellowship, our community, our family there. So, I try to counsel women when I'm able to. I kind of half jokingly said last week, like, my main role is to be a support so that Jeff's ministries can happen.
Right.
Yeah, and I think over the years, God has just given me, like, contentment in that. Instead of jealousy or bitterness that I couldn't be doing more. You know, that I'm, okay, this is what I'm called to do. This is the season that we're in. And, like, yeah, there's going to be things I'm going to have to sit out because he has to do whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just trying to support and encourage and bless the ladies of our church as best as I can. That's my main thing right now.
Right.
You know?
So what is your greatest joy as a pastor's wife?
I think just when I see Christ Church being what Christ Church is supposed to be, like loving each other, serving one another, using your gifts to build up the body, like, just gives me a lot of joy to see, like, people that are really, you know, sold out for Christ and, like, just seeking to live out that in our local, like, context.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And your greatest sorrow or sorrows as a pastor's wife?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question earlier and I didn't really have a great answer. I guess just when I don't see that happening, you know,
right.
People living selfishly or, you know, with a mindset that they're here to get what they want out of the church or they're unwilling to really just, you know, pour themselves out for the sake of Christ and the gospel, you know, and extend themselves.
Your husband gave me this question.
Oh, gosh.
How difficult has it been for you to make friends?
Oh, I should have known that was from him.
Yeah, it's his. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I feel like that's a difficult question because I go back and forth for like years over this. So I feel like in one sense it has been difficult for me to make friends. Mm-hmm. Like just real true friends that are not looking at me as Courtney, my pastor's wife. Yeah. Yeah. Just me, you know, as a person. But then on the other hand, I feel like maybe they're not the most deep of relationships, but I do have friends. It's not that I'm feeling isolated or like people don't care about me or they don't want to talk to me or anything. You know, I feel like I have friends, but I just always have felt like there's a little bit of this barrier there. And
because of your position as pastor's wife, or
I just, you know, when I'm introduced, if people see me even outside of church, it's always, oh, this is Courtney, my pastor's wife. It's not just like, this is my friend. Right. So it's just like, not that I despise that label, but it just always feels a little bit weird to me, you know, which I know people don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just like, okay, well, I'm still just a person and, you know, so, but yeah, like I have friends, I make friends.
Sure.
I guess my husband very easily makes very deep friendships and connections, despite his role. And I've never really been able to do that. And I don't know if it's just personality difference or if it's just because maybe there's a guard up that I don't even realize sometimes is up.
Right.
I don't know. So we have this like ongoing debate for like years about like why I don't have like really deep friendships in our churches. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And I don't feel like I'm missing out. It's just how I feel.
Could it be personality difference?
It could be very well. Yeah. Like, I mean, like I said, like I come with the background of like, I've been a pastor's kid. I've seen a lot of stuff. He hasn't. He's also just more of a personality type that is just going to always assume the best about people. Right. I'm not always that way. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a me problem, but I do feel like there's been enough things where it's like, I'm open to people reaching out to me. I'm reaching out, but it's like, yeah, I feel like people don't reach out to me the same way that I feel like I sometimes reach out to them or pursue, you know, so.
Yeah. And I wonder if it has something also to do with the fact that you're pretty busy. Right. I mean, you've got your
I am. I'm very busy. I don't have time to chase people down. Sure. So that's the other thing too, is like if there doesn't seem to be like a reciprocation of friendship and interest and desire to be like to meet together. Yeah. I can pretty easily just kind of move on to the next thing. And I'm like, okay, no skin off my back. I'm not offended or upset about it. I'm just like, but I can't like chase you down and like, you know.
If you were to sit down one-on-one, which you are, with another pastor's wife, how would you encourage her?
I think I would probably try to ask her or find out like what is the situation at your church? Because I know I don't assume that my situation is the same as everybody else's.
Right.
I know that there's probably a lot of pastors' wives out there that are struggling or dealing with unfair expectations from their church or even unfair expectations from their husbands. Like, so I would probably try to at least get an idea of like what is the situation that she's in, and then how can I encourage her in that, you know. But I guess if in a general sense, maybe I would just, I don't know, just try to see like, is there some area that you feel like you can really serve and pour yourself out, and not in a compulsory type of way, but just an area that you love and are interested in and is your passion, and just really pour into that. Yeah. Because I feel like that will, when we, at least for me, when I serve, it gets my attention off myself, and I don't really focus on all the areas that I feel like things aren't the way I want them to be. Yeah. But then I can serve and pour out for something that would hopefully be life-giving and encouraging for her.
Very good. Thank you for that. 2 more questions. What do you wish your congregation knew about your husband?
See, that's... I feel like my congregation knows a lot about... He's pretty open most of the time. I think just how much burden he carries for all the people in our body, and that, you know, it's not your typical job that you can just like leave at the end of the night. Yeah. Like, he carries these things all the time. And just how, you know, a good pastor who loves his flock, his people, is going to feel that weight like constantly. Yeah. You know. Yeah. And just how much love there is there. Yeah. You know, and how much effort is poured out, you know. Yeah. Because you see once a week the fruit of the rest of the week. Right. You know. Right. So. And
they're probably not seeing him more than maybe once a week.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy to think that that's the bulk. I mean, that is the main event of your whole week as a pastor, but it's not. There's so much that went into that. Yeah. And so much preparation, and then so much either joy or heartache that's carried over from that day, depending on what happened that day. Yeah. Yeah. So carries into the rest of your week. And yeah.
Is that part of your ministry for him, to help him process all the stuff that happens during the week?
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, we're pretty open with each other. Right. There's obviously times he'll say, I can't talk about it, and that's fine. And I don't ask questions, I don't push. Like, I just have known that. I've learned that. But for the most part, like, he tells me pretty much everything. Yeah. Just because, you know, we have a really solid elder team, so I know it's not that he doesn't have people to talk to about it, but it's just our way. It's just the way we are. Like, we just talk. I mean, even tonight, our kids were complaining because they wanted to play with him, and they wanted him to wrestle them, and he's like, I'm talking to your mom, because we hadn't really talked all day, because he's in his office downstairs, and I'm busy, and we do have times where we'll see each other and say, hey, you know, little snippets. Right, yeah. But at the end of the day is really when we like, oh, I talked to this person, or, you know, I had this conversation, or this happened. And it's just kind of, yeah, we just talk through a lot of stuff together.
What question didn't I ask that you want to answer?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I don't really have any that I didn't really have expectations of what you would or wouldn't ask, so.
Is there anything that you just want to say about being a pastor's wife that kind of put down your foot on this one thing?
I guess just, I feel, I hear this back and forth sometimes, like that, a pastor's wife, like, I'm not anybody special. Like, I'm just a normal person in your church, and I need loved on and cared for and served just like anybody else. But I do think that there is, like, it is a role that I'm in that it doesn't make me any different than anybody else, but it does kind of, because people view you differently.
Sure.
So just holding that, like, tension, I guess, that it is different, and if you're a pastor's wife, like, you are different, but you still need to be loved on, and, and to be served, and to be, known and really related to as any other believer. And if that isn't happening in your church, try to find another pastor's wife locally, or somebody that you can really bare your soul to.
Right.
And just looking for those opportunities. We've had discussions like that over the years of, like, okay, if you don't feel like you're connecting here, then where can we get connected? Like, where can we find a connection?
Yeah.
And I do think it is helpful sometimes to have an outlet where you're not a pastor's wife, and you're just a normal person.
You're just a lady.
And you can just serve and love people, and without expectation,
Yeah.
And if there's an avenue that can happen for a pastor's wife, I think that's a blessing for her and her family. So
I think, the pastor's wife is just so fascinating to me, because she doesn't really have a shepherd. Because when you come home from church, he's your husband. Mm-hmm. And you've had a relationship with him before he became a pastor. And so you relate to him in a way that's different than the rest of the congregation. So it's not that you don't have a shepherd, but it's just so complex. It's so different than what everybody else in church has.
Yeah, so that's a good way to put it. It does feel like complicated.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating.
And it is a complicated role too, in some ways, and it's and really, like, in most contexts, nobody has ever known you in your church not as a pastor's wife.
Right.
So you just don't have that.
You just come in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when we came, it was like, I'm the youngest elder's wife now.
Yeah.
Which felt very weird. But, so I kind of was, like, hoping, oh, maybe these other elders' wives might, like, mentor me or whatever. And that just has never really panned out.
Yeah.
Which is okay. I don't, like, blame them or anything. But it's, and then they're coming to me for counsel and questions, and I'm like 20 years younger than you.
But you're the pastor's wife.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just a very odd...
You're supposed to already have the answers. See.
It's a very odd dynamic, I think.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a blessing.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your willingness to do this.
Sure.
And your ministry, and I know your husband appreciates you.
Yeah.
And honors you. At least he does when he speaks to me about you.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.